When you're creating scenes in Maya, you start to accumulate a lot of different files that are going into making that scene work. You've got your geometry, your scene files, you've got your texture files, you've got data caches. All of these files need to work together to create the scene. Now, you could create your files in one place and your textures in another place and have them spread all across your network drive or your hard drive, but it's better practice to have everything consolidated. That's where Maya Projects comes in. So Maya Projects are a way to keep everything in one structure so that when you need to move those to a different location, or you just need to know where everything is, it's all where you expect it to be. So when you start a new scene, you'll want to create a new project or assign Maya to an existing project that you want to continue. To do that, we'll go to File and come down to the Project section here. We've got Project Window and Set Project. If we're going to create a new project, let's click Project Window. So as we see at the top, there is a current project. This is the name of the project that we're currently assigned. We've got the location of the project, and then we have all of the different folders that are included in that project. Now you can see there are folders for scenes, which are our main file that we're going to be working with. We've also got assets, images, source images, where we can keep things like textures. We've got render data, sound, scripts, data. We've got lots of different things, and these can all be customized. So to create a new project, we'll simply go to New, and that will open up both of these text boxes. So we can add a name. So we'll call this Getting Started 2020, and then we can choose where we want this to be. So if we click on the folder icon, we can navigate to where we want to put our project. Once you're in the folder where you want to place the project, you can hit Select, and that will select that folder. So the new project is going to be created with this name inside of this folder. Let's go ahead and say Accept. So now when we go to File and we open a scene, we're going to default to that project. You can see here, the project that we just created is listed as our current project, and all of these folders that we saw when we created the project are listed here. If we go ahead and look in that folder, you can see the folder here, and again, all of those folders listed. So when you are assigned to a project, anytime you go to open a file, it's going to default to that project. You can always go look in different places on your hard drive to find files, but it's easy to come back here and click on any of these folders to go back to that folder on that particular project. So having projects assigned is really, really important as far as dealing with all of your files, but let's talk a little bit more about working with those files. So up here on our status line, we do have the ability to create a new file. We can open a scene, an existing scene file, and we can also save. Now there are two main scene file types that you can create in Maya. So if we go to Save As, you can see here we can name this whatever we want. And again, it's defaulting into that scenes folder. If we come down to files of type, you can see that there are two different types, binary and ASCII. You can choose which type that you'd like to use. In the past, sometimes people have used the ASCII files if they needed to change versions or do some editing, whereas binary files, you're not able to do that. So there may be some specific instances where you need to save it in a particular format, but for the most part, you should be fine either way. Anytime you save a file, you're going to have some options over here on the right, and they could change depending on the type of file that you're actually saving. So let's say that we have our project here, and it's this sort of delivery package case here, and we want to save this. So what we can do is we'll go to Save As. Again, we're in our project. You can just type the name. We don't have to put the extension. It is going to be a Maya binary file, and just click Save As. You'll see that now we're saved package.mb. Now, if you're working on a project, especially for a long period of time, you don't want to keep saving over the same file. It's wise to increment your files. So if something happens, at most, you'll lose the work that you created up to the last saved file versus losing the whole project. So in this case, we can go to File, and instead of saving, we can increment and save. So let's change something on our model here. We'll just rotate around a little bit, and then we'll hit increment and save. So now you can see that up here, this is saved as package 0001. If we come in here and look, you can see there it is as well. If we were to increment this again, it'll increment that by 1. You can change the padding settings as well, but now the most work that we'll lose is up to our last iteration, which creates more files, but it also gives you some peace of mind. In addition to incrementing, we can also turn on autosave. So let's go into Windows, Settings and Preferences, and let's go into the Preferences. If we come down to Files and Projects, you can see that there is a recent history size. This tells Maya how many of these files, increments, and projects you want to list in the recent files listed here. We can also enable autosave. You can tell it to prompt you before it saves, and you can limit the autosaves based on the number of autosaves here. So we could say, well, I only want to save the last 5. You can also change the interval that it will save. So if it's saving too often, you can always increase that interval. You can also determine where those scene files are saved. When you've got everything set like, you can hit save to save your preferences. Now we talked about the formats that we can save files in, but there are a lot of different files that we can actually use in our projects. So if we go up to File, you can see there's an Import and Export section. If we hit Import and come down to Files of Type, we can see all of the different files that we can import. So some common files that you'll be working with are FBX, which you can see listed here. We can also import lots of different files. OBJs are another very ubiquitous file format for working with geometry. You can import other Maya scene files. You can import Illustrator files or EPS files. And you can also import lots of different very specific file types from manufacturing and other industries. Alembic is a common format to hold caches for geometry and effects. So there are a lot of different options for the kinds of files that you can bring into Maya, and then you have the ability to save those out. Remember autosave and incremental save to give you some peace of mind as you're working so you don't lose your work. And make sure to use Maya projects so all of your files are self-contained and you can move them, share them, or archive them as needed, and you'll have all the files that are included in your scenes.